So, folks, there is a big problem brewing for the conservative movement here in America, and that problem's name is Jeffrey Epstein. So, in case you don't know, Jeffrey Epstein, Stein, I always forget which it is one of the most prolific sex traffickers in U.S. history.
I'm rethinking the Green Bay Packers based on this new info.
The fucking timing, Sake Tanuki. Oh god. We're gonna start that segment out again. As far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein has nothing to do with the Green Bay Packers. Oh my god. Oh fuck. All right. Okay. So Jeffrey Epstein, noted sex trafficker and someone who basically spent his life collecting blackmail. It is unknown how he made his money. It is speculated that he made his money by blackmailing businessmen, and he was quite successful at that because he hooked them up with children. And one of the main driving forces behind MAGA is the QAnon movement. It is a widely accepted movement within conservative circles. There are some people who now hold elected office in Trump's cabinet, in Trump's Congress, who are QAnoners. They are completely lost in the sauce when it comes to this conspiracy theory. And to kind of sum it up a little bit, basically QAnon is this belief that there's someone named who goes by Q that drops information packets on it used to be 4chan, then I think it became they moved over to 8kun, who drops these like cryptic clues, and then all of the QAnoners like decrypt it, and they have collectively decided that these clues point to the fact that there is widespread pedophilia rings in the United States involving the most powerful and richest people in the country, and that Donald Trump is the vehicle to put an end to those pedophilia rings. And this has resulted in people taking their own lives, killing their families. This resulted in famously the Pizzagate incident, where a man showed up at I think Comet Ping Pong, a pizza parlor in DC, and shot it up. So this is interesting, of course, because the Trump administration has decided that they're not going to release the Epstein files. After months and months of saying, of course we're releasing the Epstein files. Of course we're releasing the Epstein files. Of course we're doing that. We have his entire contact list on our desks right now. We're looking at it. We're going to release it. And it's going to shock the world. It's some of the most powerful people. And it's not just like since they got in power, they literally campaigned on doing this. And they did a weird stunt earlier this year where Pam Bondi presented a bunch of like conservative influencers with binders purporting to have like secret information about Jeffrey Epstein. And they didn't have that information. It was just like stuff that is already public knowledge. And so like, wait, does Pizzagate predate QAnon? Because like QAnon was all over Pizzagate. I might have my my order of events a little confused. But regardless, this is a group of people who believes that like JFK Jr. didn't actually die and has been secretly fighting against pedophiles for the last 40 years, and he was secretly on Donald Trump's like ticket and in his cabinet and all that. It's all nonsense, of course. But the issue is Republicans believe it. And so them being told, actually, there is no client list. There's not any information about Jeffrey Epstein. Well, they're falling into a couple of different camps about that. And, well, one of the main camps is, wow, this is real horse shit. This is a whole blown cover up. Why on earth would Donald Trump, someone who was one of Jeffrey Epstein's best friends, not release this client list? I can't figure it out. So here's, again, one of the dumbest men alive giving his take on it.
About releasing the Epstein files again. Here's the problem. Right now, if Trump releases the Epstein files, it won't change anyone's opinion unless a number of really powerful people are directly implicated and go to jail. The trust has already been broken.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems.
I mean, I would hope that people would go to
More
jail.
like P. Diddley.
Saagar Tanuki, well played. Well played. Let's be clear here. The implication Asmongold makes here is that there was a scenario where these lists could have been published and made public, and then people wouldn't be prosecuted for having sex with children. I don't understand his logic here, but it's very clear he at least recognizes this is a problem.
Unless a number of really powerful people are directly implicated and go to jail. The trust has already been broken.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. That island.
Yeah, like, understand, this is a huge problem for conservatives. This has been, like, for some people, the only issue they've cared about for, like, a decade now.
Was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it.
You have the names. Like, he literally just gave 2 names. That's so bad. Are you protecting them?
Thousands
Click
of
bot while I wait for Tony Hawk 3+4 to download.
Chuny Snow Pedal, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Hope you have fun with Tony Hawk.
videos. Epstein with children or child well over this will make you
like I'm sorry, like just real quick, again, understand how big of an issue this is for the conservative narrative.
That's so bad. Are you protecting them?
thousands of videos. Epstein with children or child well.
So Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States of America, talks about having thousands of videos, but they don't have any information to, convict anyone. That's so strange. That's so weird. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that Donald Trump was one of Jeffrey Epstein's best friends.
Over this will make you sick. 200 victims.
So if there's so many videos, you're telling me nobody else was in any of these videos?
A lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
Incredibly disturbing. We have so many individuals.
This is actually crazy how big of a cover-up this is. It is shocking that it's...
Yeah, it's almost like Donald Trump and his entire administration is full of liars. It's almost like that. It's who could have seen this coming? The people known for lying all the time? Telling lies? No one could have predicted this.
This big of a cover-up. Donald Trump called them out by name.
Bill Clinton. Got a lot of problems.
Also, yeah, Pam Bondi was actually literally the Attorney General in Florida.
Coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
Oh, God. Hello, Majority Report. We like you. But yeah, I wonder if there's any reason. I wonder if there's any reason here why why would they say there aren't any names in the Epstein list? That's so weird. I don't understand. I don't understand why would they say that? No one can crack this case. It's truly impossible. And I do have to say, one of the methods of a conservative cope when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein's, the cover-up of the Jeffrey Epstein list or evidence, whatever you want to call it, is, of course, the Asmongold route, where it's just like, wow, this is a cover-up of some kind. If only we had some way of explaining this. The other method is... some other conservatives are taking the alternative route. We'll say here's Clay Travis for Outkick.com, and which I believe is like a conservative sports affiliate of like Fox News. He's got some interesting takes here on the Epstein stuff on this alternate route.
Everything that I have seen suggests that Epstein was preying on women that were of age in some states. I say that. Every state has different laws as to what is the age of consent. And for instance, I believe I am correct. I promise you're not going to get fired for looking it up. I think the state of Alabama, the age of consent is 16. There are a bunch of different states. Some of them, we tend to say 18 is the age of minor or majority in the country, and it is true to a certain extent. But there's actually, every individual state has its own age of consent law. And so some states are 18, other states are 17. Some states are 16. I think some states might even be 15. My point on this is Jeffrey Epstein was engaged with 16, 17, 18-year-old girls to the extent that they were underage. Not 9 and 10-year-old girls. Now, everybody's going to clip this and be like, oh, there's a difference. And the difference is in some states, Jeffrey Epstein's behavior would have actually been legal. Everything.
So that's the that's the other route that some conservatives are going down, which is just the route of saying statutory rape is totally fine, actually. Which that's, I mean, like, I can't imagine telling on yourself more utterly and completely, you know? This is an outlet that talks about how like trans trans people shouldn't be allowed to participate in sports because, you know, that they might sexually harass someone in a locker room, despite the fact that that doesn't really happen and trans people are overwhelmingly the target of sexual harassment. It's all think of the children right up until it's time to talk about age of consent laws, I guess, for this type of conservative. He's literally out there being like, yeah, I wouldn't get as mad about like I wouldn't get that mad about like a 16-year-old getting raped by an adult man, which is just like, how do you still have a career? How are you not fired from your job, sir? Yeah, think of the children as brides. Yeah, exactly. Like, again, there is a certain type of guy that overwhelmingly looks exactly like Clay Travis here, that weirdly, for no reason at all, knows each state's individual age of consent law. And that might be one of the biggest red flags you could possibly imagine. If you know a guy like that, you shouldn't be friends with them, and you shouldn't let like your children like have sleepovers at his house, okay? Dog. It's gross, right? But there are people actively now on like Fox News network shows like Outkick going around and talking about how actually what Jeffrey Epstein did was fine. All his only crime was not trafficking children in Alabama, which is, again, maybe one of the grossest arguments you could possibly make. Like, damn. Another new line I saw is, oh gosh, who even cares? Yeah, so there are a couple different camps here, right? There's the, oh, this is definitely a cover-up. There is the camp of, actually, Jeffrey Epstein didn't do anything wrong, so it's totally fine. And then there's the camp of, who cares? It's been so long. Who cares? Let's just not think about it anymore. Those are kind of the three major camps, but I don't think the camp of who cares is really going to carry the day here, largely because, again, this think of the children mentality has been core to the Republican like brand building for the last decade, really. And it's hard to shake that off, especially when you have other people in the conservative movement going, actually, it's totally fine. To like I don't really understand, but I think a big indicator of why the I don't really care message isn't going to stick is because I'm seeing a certain faction of Republicans kind of come out of the woodwork to try and talk about this in more depth. And I think one of the things we need to be aware of is that this is going to be a minor wedge issue at the moment. Like, this isn't going to be what like fundamentally breaks the Republican Party. This is going to be an issue within the Republican movement that allows for certain conservative figures to try and differentiate themselves. And what I mean by that is it's time to talk about Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson has been rumored for a long time to have a desire to enter into politics. He has a lot of money buoyed by that Swanson frozen food fortune. He has the recognition. He has, the ambition. And one of the things he hasn't been shy about doing is speaking out in different ways against different mainstream conservative figures. You might remember recently he belittled Ted Cruz on the issue of Iran. He interviewed Iran's president. And this isn't me saying, oh, based, Tucker Carlson based it, because he's not. He's an evil dude who did an entire episode of his show about how he fought, like he fought fisticuffs with a demon. He's kind of deranged, you know? But he's also out here talking about this being a huge cover-up. And I find that really interesting because, again, if somebody is differentiating themselves from the administration on this issue, it is only a tiny hop skip to pointing out that Donald Trump is most likely implicated in any kind of Epstein bombshell, you know? But here's an episode from, I think, a couple days ago where Tucker Carlson was talking with Saagar and Jetty, and from Breaking Points or Counterpoints. I forget the name of the show. It's the one with Crystal from Crystal Kyle and Friends.
With them. I remember thinking when Epstein killed himself, I never met Epstein, but I mean, he, knew everybody. I mean, I will say, in his, in the defense of people who got caught up in this because they went to dinner at Epstein's, like that George Stephanopoulos, for example, who I disagree with on everything, but like, I know George, and I don't think George was having sex with kids at Epstein's. Yeah. Like,
Jesus, that's so loud. I'm sorry.
Epstein was, just part of like the social fabric, right? And Trump knew him for that reason also. But when he killed himself, I remember thinking people were like, he didn't kill himself. I was like, he probably killed himself. He's in jail or whatever. His brother Mark called me a couple days after he killed himself. And so began this like 3-year-long conversation with Mark Epstein and looking into it in a way I never thought I would. He didn't kill himself. Yeah. He was murdered in his cell.
Yeah.
And I think that's really meaningful. It's the most secure federal lockup in the United States. How can that happen? It can't happen without state actors involved.
That's right. Look at the story that we were told at that time. Part of the information dump here by the administration is some hours of footage.
What is going on with Saagar's tie? Are those cats? I hope they're cats.
Told that footage didn't exist. We were told that this was some guards who were
breaking points.
Off
they
fell asleep. They fell asleep. This was none of it exists, and actually, it was all part of a screw up, and the camera angles wouldn't even be able to show anything. But that's why they're relatively confident. So where did this camera footage even come from?
Well, the camera footage doesn't even. First of all, it ends before they take his body out. Right. Why can't we see that? Yep. And the angle on it is absurd. Yeah. But the real question, just not to be pedantic, but the real question is, who are the other inmates on that cell block? So no one came in or out of the cell block. I think that's fair. It was the most secure cell block in that federal lockup in Manhattan. But who are the other inmates? And I went to Department of Prisons, which is part of DOJ, and asked, like, what are their names? Oh, you can't for privacy reasons. Really? These are people who can't vote or own a firearm?
Yes.
For the rest of their life.
Oh, I don't think Tucker Carlson is going to join the America Party. Literally in this same episode, they make fun of the America Party. I think it's like, maybe it's in the most recent Tucker Carlson. Oh, no, it's here. It's later on.
Lives, but somehow they've got like a HIPAA law or something around who's a federal inmate. Fuck you, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry. It made me so mad because, of course, if Epstein was murdered, and it's very clear that he was murdered by another inmate.
That's right.
And we know that a bunch of them were transferred out of that unit right after he died. Who were they? Where are they now? Like, why can't we get an answer to that question? So the whole thing that this tape shows that he didn't kill himself is like a joke. But worse than that, it's a joke that we all get. Like, they're not fooling anybody. So I feel like we're at a dangerous point now.
Yeah, I agree, because the lie is more it's not, the lie at this point is not even part of trying to convince any of this is true.
Yes.
The lie is a signal to everybody else involved in the scheme that to the ultimate ends, the United States government will go to protect all of you.
Yes.
And that,
I mean, also, like, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years, you know, for her role in the Epstein shit. And like, you had enough evidence to put her away for 20 years, but you don't have evidence on any of the people that she was like assisting Epstein's sex trafficking for. Like, you don't have any other information there. I just don't believe that.
that's the question. For
Man,
what
is that smart.
purpose?
Can you say that again? Okay,
Yes.
so it's a signal.
The lie is not for you and me. The lie is for those implicated to say, no matter what, we will protect you. And then we have to start asking the question, why? As in, what is the purpose of this entire thing? Why does it matter that it happens right before the Israeli prime minister comes to Washington for the third time? As you said, what is the linkage here between those two? And the linkage is...
I mean, the linkage is that Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Like again, all these conservative butts like just keep dancing around the fundamental premise that like they're BFFs. And like Donald Trump has a history of like being into younger women and not respecting consent. Like again, the puzzle piece is right there. The puzzle piece is right there.
Is the fact that even a surface level view of Jeffrey Epstein, of the case, of the entire public record, reveals Alex Acosta, who said he belonged to intelligence. He said that. The person who was responsible for the Sweetheart 13-month deal, Alex Acosta, who is the U.S. attorney, said, and I believe he testified this in sworn testimony, said, I was told he belonged to intelligence. That was a key part of why the charges were dropped against him, and he got some Sweetheart Palm Beach County Jail situation where he was allowed to.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, who was president at the time that Alex Acosta was doing this? Who was president? Oh, it was Donald Trump. That's right. It was Donald Trump. Alex Acosta was Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. Weird how all of these through lines seem to come back to one guy who is Jeffrey Epstein's BFF. So strange. It's so weird that Alex Acosta, super good friend of Donald Trump, gave a sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein. So strange.
Leave on the weekends, and why, even though I know you'll forgive George, but I actually won't. I don't have dinner with pedophiles. I'm not sure about you. I'm generally aware of the people who I am around, and if I can get invited to someone's house, I do cursory Google searches. That's generally what, I think that's normal.
Smart.
I don't want to be in the presence of people who I think are like genuinely evil. That's what I think. So,
and yet here you are talking to Tucker Carlson. It's very strange.
So for me, I actually can't forgive many of the media figures and the presidents, people like Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, all these other high-profile figures, specifically because it was all out in the public record. And then in particular, all of these high-flying Wall Street financiers and Deutsche Bank, remember, they were fined. I think it was the New York Financial Services. I read that entire report. It's one of the most extraordinary reports I've ever seen, because they specifically talk about how the bank ignored almost every single one of its own procedures that it would apply to any other client. And that at the highest levels, and remember, I think is the Barclays CEO, he's already been in trouble for this, for covering up much of this in one of the largest financial institutions in the entire world. For example, Tucker, if you and I keep going to the bank and withdrawing $9,900 in cash, and we do it for a couple of weeks, our banking institutions are supposed to call, both the IRS and the DOJ and say something is going on here.
And they will.
And they will. and they should, right? That is what this is done for a reason. He did this for years, and the classification that the bank accepted was it was just for tips.
What I want to get to the bottom of is where Barack Obama was during the 80s and 90s when these elites were out on Epstein's Island. THONKERS.
Yeah, where was he? Suck it, Tanuki. Thank you for the 2 subs. But also, can we just take a moment to just talk about another person who just has a lot to do with all of this? Just Alan Dershowitz, just one of the guys who also negotiated for Epstein's defense team, along and was negotiating with Alex Acosta, who then, weirdly enough, wound up being Donald Trump's lawyer, one of his premier lawyers on his defense team when he was impeached in 2020. He also is implicated in Epstein's flight logs. I believe his defense for, not flight logs, but his defense for being on Epstein's Island was that he didn't take his underwear off, or he didn't take his pants off when he was getting a massage. It's some real fucking gross shit. But yeah, no, let's not talk about the actual general through line here, which is that all of these people are associates of Donald Trump.
This is what I mean about the highest level of the cover-up and what the cover-up means for the system itself. And something you and I were talking about recently is I really believe here that, and I've never believed it more, that in a sense, for elected government and for all the benefits of our republic and of representation, that elites actually have always mattered. And of course, they're the ones responsible for channeling public energy. This is the way that we're set up into law, into policy, etc. And so this lie was a signal to the elites. It was a signal to Versailles. It was a signal to the court that the court will always be protected no matter what. And it's enraging at a moment when the court has never been more reviled by the public. It's not just a spit in the face of the public. It really is like a late 1700s kind of signal to the court that we will protect this institution no matter what. And it's really a question for the rest of us as to if we're going to continue to put up with this.
I wonder what our recourse is. None of us is paying very close attention during the summer. The news cycle
I wonder what our recourse
comes
is.
down, families.
I guess it's ad time. That's our recourse. Don't think about Donald Trump. Think about ads.
But they're like, can we come on your show? We've written a book on Epstein and this whole scandal. So I read the book, and it's very sophisticated. And it's like Epstein's super bad, but the Epstein story is really limited to Epstein, this bad guy who died. And there's no evidence it was part of anything bigger that had anything to do with other countries. And they come on my show and I interview them and they're like, no, yeah, there's all this stuff, mysteries. We couldn't get to the bottom of it. But, Epstein's really, really bad. And looking back, I'm like, that was by design.
Yes.
Right? It was like, wow, we're exposed here. And we need to we need a Warren Commission, actually.
No, you're right. Yeah. Except a real one at this time.
It didn't work because, Vanity Fair, to its great credit, wrote a couple of...
I was curious how much they would dance around this, and I was wondering if Tucker would actually be like, I was wondering if he was even going to try and float the concept.
Pieces, then they stopped covering it, I noticed. But they kind of got to the Wexner thing. Who's this Wexner guy?
Who
what
is
this?
Wexner?
And what ties do these guys have to foreign intel services?
Yes.
Which were deep. I mean, I think Ehud Barak lived at Jeffrey Epstein's place off Fifth Avenue.
He flew on his plane 30 times, lived often at his townhouse in Manhattan.
Yes.
At one time, the largest residence in the history of New York City, transferred to him by deed by Leslie Wexner. For what purpose? We have no idea. He invested in Ehud Barak's defense intelligence startup, and I think the defense intelligence part there may be even as interesting as the fact that it's a former Israeli prime minister and former head of Israeli military intelligence.
Again, there is a lot of... I think that is absolutely not the real story here. I think the real story is who's the president, who's the one who is a direct vested interest in this story never seeing the light of day, who is currently, in charge. And it's pretty obvious where all those arrows point. And it feels like a weird defense to try and be like, yes, but you see, Jeffrey Epstein was investing in Israeli companies. Therefore, As you can see, Epstein was a plot by the Jews. Like that's what they're doing here. It's like pretty gross. Don't like it. Not a fan of it. And I wouldn't normally say, look, they're critiquing like Israel's policy. Except that's not what Tucker Carlson does. Tucker Carlson has gone much farther. He's basically doing the Alex Jones blood libel thing these days. It's not great. So I don't give the benefit of the doubt to this kind of speculation when, again, the much more obvious conclusion is that Donald Trump was involved in these documents.
I mean, this is what I'm saying about the money. The money is so important to this story because we already have, documented cases of CIA, Israeli, and others buying up private corporations which pose as, let's say, cybersecurity firms that sell to the government or other governments and use those as backdoors. So, look, if you're Ehud Barak, you've probably met, some of the richest people on the planet. Why do you need, these investments from Jeffrey Epstein, of all people, a tax advisor to the super rich? What did Bill Gates get from his repeated involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? Why did Melinda Gates, divorce Bill Gates?
What about the guy who's currently the president of the United States? What did he get from his long association with Jeffrey Epstein?
After years and of obvious knowledge of his philandering in the past. Are we really to believe it's about philandering, from 20 years ago, which was well known apparently within Microsoft? No, it's because she probably started to get a little aware, or perhaps there was something else going on there as to the extent of what that relationship was. And, the fact is even from public reporting, we're told that Jeffrey Epstein was seen by Gates as the conduit to win the Nobel Peace Prize. How? For what purpose? How does he have all of these ends with the highest level of the intelligence or the scientific community? And then, of course, it doesn't take a genius to see the intertwinement between the scientific community, the academic research industrial complex, and the intelligence community. So all of these pieces, this is the unfortunate part. And,
like, all of these things can indeed be connected, but it's fascinating that, again, we're not going to talk about one of the other most connecting, most influential factors in whether or not this information gets released. We're not going to talk about who's currently president of the United States.
Even returning, like you said, to him being killed himself, or him allegedly killing himself. Let's not forget Michael Baden, who I think is a very authoritative figure. He reviewed all of the documents, the autopsy, etc. He said this is not a case of suicide.
I've talked to him about it.
Yes, and it's like, let's remember. He's one of the most, probably the most famous forensic
pathologist.
Pathologist in America, and his research has been his diagnosis has been very important in a lot of other previous cases, which turned out to be true. And so when he looks at this and we have that evidence, when we have the cover up here now at the government, I'm appalled, that this is happening at the highest level. But my only conclusion is just to return is it's just a signal to the court is don't worry about it. We've got you. The people don't matter in this case.
Man, I think this, for a bunch of reasons, it's so obvious. It is salacious. People have followed it for years. The president promised to reveal the truth about this. Pam Bondi, as you said, went on television and said, we have the truth and we're going to give it to you.
Yes.
I think this is a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's bigger. So. I hope so too, actually.
My take on this is that Tucker Carlson is going to use this as a wedge issue to distance himself from Trump as we get closer to 2028 and presumably like a post-Trump conservative movement. My guess is going to be that someone like Tucker Carlson is going to try and stake out a new type of nationalist conservatism that isn't connected to Trump's cult of personality. And my guess would be that he's going to claim that he's done some digging, and miraculously it's going to be like, oh, did you guys know that Donald Trump may be implicated in these documents? That's why he didn't release them. It's like he's saving his powder for that moment. He's keeping his powder dry, as Nancy Pelosi would say. God, that felt cringe to say. Never let me say that again, chat. Ugh. I just think that he's going to do that. I think that is his pivot moment. Like him saying, I think it's a really big deal. I think that's him like, put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. Let's jump ahead real quick. I wanted to take a look at this. They talk about it a little bit more later on. Here we go.
The end of their electoral options. It's like, I voted for this guy, and I'll speak for myself. I voted for this guy precisely because I'm really distressed. I want justice. I want honesty. I think secrecy abets evil. I want someone to focus on my country, like all the basic things. And I think Trump wants all those things too. But if you...
Yeah, I would imagine Catman, the bad man, I agree with you. Like, I do think that if somebody does have access to information that implicates Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, if that does exist, I would guess that someone makes a copy of that information, leaks that information, etc. Like, as we go into the next cycle of who's going to lead the conservative movement, you know? And that could basically be a way of like, all right, you've had your time, old man. Time for us whippersnappers to take a shot. I imagine that's another way that this could all go down, because let's be real here, the people working under Trump, they have superficial loyalty to him, but it doesn't run deep. And once they see like the shore, once they see 2028 coming up into view, they're going to be all thinking how they're going to land out of this.
When you allow something like this to happen, people are like, you know what? The system itself is beyond reform. There's no reasonable step I can take to improve this country or my own life. I have to do something crazy.
Yes.
Like, you're creating true radicalism when you do stuff like this. Because what's the option?
Well, that's why, in a way, I want to hold a lot of these leaders to a higher standard, is because if you're elected on that message and you betray that message, in my opinion, you're more culpable than, let's say, the idiots like George W. Bush and others who really believed it, right? They believed they destroyed our country.
I agree.
But they, at the very least, they didn't lie to us as much about wanting to address the very problems that they created. But when you have people like Obama, Biden, and Trump who are elected right now on the backs of fixing the most catastrophic presidency probably in American history, George W. Bush, but then to return to many, or in many cases, even go further and not actually address those, I think you're very culpable in that. And you reap what you sow. I mean, you said you're not a radical. I'm similar in disposition, like...
I'm like you, Tucker. I'm also not a radical. Both of them like have like insanely far right views. Like, Saagar is like a fascist. He's a pragmatic fascist, but like he's a clown. Tucker Carlson is like a dyed-in-the-wool fascist. Like, and Tucker Carlson is a fascist in the sense that, like, I don't know that he's like particularly ideological about it, but he's an opportunist. He recognizes that he can use this moment to ride into power, you know, while taking on the mantle of fascism. And I think he's more than willing to do so.
I don't want to see mass violence or any of these other...
Well, you're a married father. You're right. Like, I am too. You're totally vested in the future of the country.
Exactly. I don't want that to happen.
No!
But as an analyst, or as somebody familiar with history, somebody who has an audience and can pick up on social trends, people are mad as hell right now. They are angry.
Too mad.
Angry.
Too mad.
Yes.
No,
People are too mad. No, I actually don't think people are angry enough. More people need to be angry. More people need to like get out and like protest. But like, to these to like Tucker Carlson and Saagar and Jetty, I don't think they think of it like that anger and like the violence in the streets and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's bad. We should repress that. You know, like we should get the boot of the state more firmly on their necks. You know, like, nah, people need to be organizing on behalf of the working class in order to fight and defend our neighbors and our loved ones, because this fascist movement that both Tucker Carlson and Saagar and Jetty support, by the way, like, people are angry because ICE is like going door to door and like disappearing people off the street and chasing people through the fields. Like, it's literally like we have a modernized like slave catching force, because they're literally doing that. They're like chasing down people to send to private detention facilities where they're then forced to perform prison labor. Like if they want to like call their families. Like it's not like these people are both in favor of those policies, you know? Tucker, Saagar, they're both in favor of these policies. So I don't know, it rings a bit hollow, and they're like, people are too angry about this.
Yeah. Agree. I'm legit. That Epstein thing, it's not even about Epstein. I think I know what the Epstein thing was. Everybody knows what it was. I think YouPorn is the same thing.
Yes.
They're collecting information.
God. Yeah, watching consenting legal pornography, exactly the same thing as a man kidnapping children to be raped by the wealthiest people on the planet. Such the same thing. Fuck off. Like I hope like that attempt to transition here really shows you how full of shit this man is. So that's where the conservative movement is at this particular point in time. Okay, they're either in a desperate attempt to say like this doesn't matter when it very clearly does, or they're saying, "Wow, I can't believe that they covered this up. Why would they cover it up?" And they just can't put the pieces together that it's Donald Trump. Or you have people saying, "Actually, what Epstein did was totally fine." Or you have people setting themselves up for like a political challenge in 2028. Like that's what you've got, like the four camps. And then the Fire Nation attacked. I can't believe they don't know it's Trump. Well, you have to understand, like in these kind of like hero worship settings, it's never the hero, obviously. Like it must be something else. Like that's kind of like the cult of personality always deflects. And it's getting harder and harder to deflect away from Trump when it comes to why these aren't seeing the light of day. So if you happen to be conservative, just know the general through line of all of these documents not coming to light is Donald Trump. End of story. See you later. I don't know why I ended the segment saying that. I'm so sorry.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.